Hey guys, welcome back to Swift Tech Reviews. Jeff here, and today I have a review of the BLU Life 8. This is the newest device in BLU's Life series lineup. It has an 8 megapixel rear camera with LED flash, a 2 megapixel front-facing camera. I believe it's 8 gigs on board, and that's expandable up to 64 gigs, and 1 gig of RAM. And a 1.7 gigahertz processor. That's octa-core. So that's pretty cool, right? Okay. So it has a 5-inch 720p display, 3 capacitive buttons, and runs a version of stock Android 4.4.2. I'll go ahead and show you that right now. About device. So it is still on Jelly Bean. It's been promised to be upgraded to KitKat very soon. The design of the phone, it's pretty nice. It's nice, but it feels really tall. In fact, it's taller than the LG G2, which has a 5.2-inch display. And it's also about the same size as the Samsung Galaxy Note 3 Neo, which is 5.5 inches. So there's definitely some wasted real estate here in the Life 8. If they've gotten rid of this body-colored bezel down here and just shortened it, it would have been fine. It would have been a lot less tall. So I'm not sure why that's there. Maybe it's an antenna, I don't know. But for a phone with only 5-inch display, it's a really tall phone. On the top you have the headphone jack and a microphone. On the right side you have the power button, which is kind of nice. They're kind of chromed out, like a silvery plastic. On the bottom you have the micro USB port and a microphone. And on the left side you have the power button, not the power button, the volume rocker. The display, it's pretty nice. It's only 720p, but you don't really need much more than that. Especially on a phone this size, 5 inches, you still get a very decent pixel density. So images are still sharp and bright, and color reproduction seems fairly well. Touch input is pretty accurate on here. Always responds the first time without having to double tap. Same goes for the capacitive buttons, which on some phones I have noticed that there is a very specific touch target for capacitive buttons, and it can take a few tries to actually hit it the first time. Call quality, I haven't experienced much disappointment with call quality. It's pretty good. The callers on the other end did know that I was talking on a cell phone, but it didn't sound tinny, and there wasn't any cracking or anything, and didn't have any dropped calls. As for battery life, here's where things get a little tricky. I use my phone constantly. I'm constantly on my phone, checking emails, texting, a little bit of phone calls, a few pictures every now and then. When I would get home after a full workday from 10 to 7, I was down to maybe 18%, which is kind of bad for someone constantly on the go like I am. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're a moderate to average user, you should be fine getting through a full day no matter what. I don't experience much gaming in my life. I don't really have time for it, but for those that do, you may be a little disappointed. The phone only has a 1 gig RAM, so I'm sure it's not going to handle process-intensive games. But you can try. I don't, so I can't really say how good phones are, or at least how good this phone is compared to other phones when it comes to gaming. When I do game, it's usually Fast and Furious 6 for, 15 or 20 minutes, and there are a few dropped frames, but that's only because I have tons of apps open in the background. But if you close all your apps, I'm sure any game would be usable without being broken and unusable. The camera, it's 8 megapixels, which isn't bad. So I'll go ahead and take some pictures, let's say, of the LG G2. Camera loads up really quickly. I'm not in normal mode. So there we go, normal mode. Camera shutter is a little slow off the gate. But even zooming in closely, say to the LG logo, it can zoom in. It can get the shot. Which I've noticed on a lot of phones, it can't do. You can zoom in and it doesn't get too pixelated until we reach about there on the LG logo. Which seems pretty good. It's hard to say about that on some other devices where things tend to get pixelated right off the gate. And I'll show you the front-facing camera, actually. There I am. Hello, world. So the camera shutter is pretty slow off the start, but it gets the shot, and it gets it done. Oh, there was one thing I wanted to show you in camera. It's a feature called multi-shot or multi-angle view. So basically it's somewhat similar to panorama, except it gets the entire image and it comes out sort of like a video kind of, rather than one continuously long shot. And I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so all in all, this device is pretty good for only $199. It has a 5-inch display. It's dual SIM, which I forgot to mention earlier. So I will actually touch up on that. This phone is dual SIM, and they are located right here under the battery cover, which is removable, along with a 2000 milliamp hour battery, which is also removable, and the micro SD card slot there. So here's the first SIM. It is micro SIM. And then the second SIM over here is mini SIM, so you will need a regular size SIM card, which I think is kind of weird. Why would you have one micro SIM and then one standard SIM? I don't know, that's kind of weird. But I do have a 30 gig card in here, and it does respond to the phone, so that's good. Now back to being dual SIM. As you can see in the status bar, there are 2 signal icons. And this frustrates me because why are there signal icons and I don't have any SIM cards in the device right now? Even when I do put in a single SIM card, the second signal icon does not disappear, which is very frustrating, and it makes the status bar look cluttered. I am rooted on here, which many of you probably will be as well, and if you're not, that's okay too. But I can't install Exposed Installer and Framework or Gravity Box because this phone runs Alien OS, which is incompatible with Exposed and Gravity Box. I tried to install it a few times, and both times the phone refused to boot. It would get stuck at the boot screen, the boot logo. So I would have to go into recovery mode and factory reset. That's kind of a bummer for me, and there's nothing in settings to disable the second signal bar, even when it's not in use, which I find extremely irritating. I have another dual SIM phone that I'm currently testing, and that is the Asus Zenfone 5. And as you can see, it's a dual SIM phone. But in the status bar, only one SIM is active, and it has the one signal icon, which is how it should be in a dual SIM phone. If there isn't another SIM card active, then I think the signal bar should disappear. That's me. So that's one of the two gripes that I have about this phone. The second is the capacitive buttons. They time out after just a few seconds, and there's no setting in settings to change the timeout period or to keep them on. There is an option to keep them off, but that's crazy. I don't know. Anyway, for $199, this phone is pretty good. I will say that this does have backlit keys, as opposed to the Asus that does not have backlit keys, and it's running, it's pretty much the same kind of device, dual SIM 720p display. I'll have a battle later on, after I've reviewed the Asus alone. Okay guys, that's been my review of the BLU Life 8. Be sure to check out my blog at swifttechreviews.com and subscribe to my channel right here. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe.